Focus Colombia. Has Spanish legislation paved the way for a new regulatory framework in LatAm?
Hi, and welcome to our Focus Colombia panel. I'm Michael Muscat from iGaming Colombia. I'm joined by Juan Carrasco from Asensi Avogados, David Plumi, the MD of Betsson Spain, and Ingrid Alvarado Lopez, also my partner in iGaming Colombia. So we're here to discuss the similarities and differences between the Colombian iGaming market and the Spanish iGaming market, both from a regulatory perspective as well as from an operational perspective, and also to see whether the legislation in Spain is paving a way for future developments in the entire LatAm region. So I'll start with Juan, and I'd just like to ask, since Asensi were quite fundamental in the drafting of the Colombian legislation, what the process was and how this generally compares to the situation in Spain.
Okay, nice to meet you guys all. Well, Asensi Avogados participated in a public tender back in 2014. The Colombian government were looking for international advisors to help them regulate the market in Colombia. When we participated, we won that public tender, and we started with a team based in Spain. Just a clarification, I'm a Colombian lawyer and in Colombia. So I was not completely in a daily basis connected to that process, but of course I was in parallel working with some of the team in Spain, and they were. It was a very, very successful process that during almost 1 year and a little bit more. During 2014, 2015, the Colombian regulator was open to understand different structures of the online gambling that was in force. They study, with our advice, of course, they study very deeply the UK regulation, Malta regulation, Italian regulation, even Denmark regulation, and of course, Spain regulation. Of course, what at the end, the result of that process was this compilation of different aspects that you, all the experts, may identify different structures of the regulation from Italy, from Denmark, technical examples of the Spanish regulation. We can find it in our Colombian regulation. But at the end, the result was, let's say, kind of a tropicalization of the law. As Colombia has regulated the gambling industry since 2001, I mean, by constitutional level, the gambling in Colombia, it's a monopoly, so it's only the right from the government to explode that business. That's why we got concessions instead of license in Colombia. And at the end, with a very strong legal framework in Colombia, where let's say basic rules for the gambling industry in general has been set up since 2001. What the regulator at the end did was assembly that all different elements for the online gambling and adapt it to what is permitted in Colombia. And that's what we have with this regulation 2016 with a lot of efforts, because this is just like a part of the history, but at the end, one of the elements that wasn't essential part of the gambling regulation was the VAT charge. It was just a structure in our tax code, and that was just like dealing to fail completely the business in Colombia and the online gambling. Fortunately, by that time, the regulator did a very good job making the Colombian government to withdraw and make an exempt business, the online gambling of VAT. And that's why we can say that we have a very successful business here right now in Colombia.
Understood. And Ingrid, as you've seen the law develop and now are advising operators and providers come into the market, how has this changed from its inception, from back in 2001 up until now? And how has it become, in my opinion, I think it's more dynamic, so let's use that word, dynamic. How have you seen the law develop and the market develop over the years?
Thank you. Well, the beginning was 2001, then 2016 when the online gaming was regulated. And then from there, new verticals have been authorized, like virtual games on 2019, live casino on 2020, opening up even more because they stopped following they set apart from the Spanish legislation that only allows live roulette, but in here they authorize more games. And in general, I believe the regulator has lately taken an approach of not authorizing verticals with specific names of games, which was the way that it was done since the beginning, but now they are authorizing wider categories where they set the essential requirements, and this allows operators to be more creative and to be to diversify their games over time without being so restrained with the very close categories. So I would say this has been, the regulators has learned from 2016 to now to issue different types of legislations that give more flexibility to the operators.
In fact, Colombia is often referred to as the first open licensing European-styled regulatory regime in LatAm. Juan, how could you compare this to the rest of the LatAm regions which are currently regulating?
Well, I mean, there's not much to compare because at the end we don't have any regulation in force. I mean, we were waiting. I will say that I'm pretty new in this industry. I started with Asensi Avogados, which is led by Santiago Asensi, which I can say it's one of the leaders that brought the regulation to Latin America, because he started here with this process in Colombia. But since I've been working with the firm, I mean, I've read drafts and read news and flash news that something is coming, and at the end, I mean, we can see that Peru nothing is there. Brazil, we come back and forward, and Argentina is pretty difficult. What I can say is that Colombia definitely start a process in LatAm because now that the numbers are open, the region understand that this is a pretty good business for governments, and I think Colombia has been kind of a model in terms of how to regulate gambling. As for instance, we have a regulator that has certain autonomy to regulate, and that's why that process is very efficient in certain way, of course, with the regular procedure, but it's a very efficient process when we have a legal framework from our Congress. So we don't need to go to the Congress to modify anything. We don't need usually we don't need to go to the Congress. Most of the small amendments requires are on the head of the Ministry of Public Finance. Then we can make certain amendments. The regulator itself has a broad authority to regulate and to create new games. So I think that model should be taken into account for other jurisdictions like Peru, like Argentina, with the different, of course, structures that Argentina is a federated country as Brazil, which has a lot of difficulties that most of you can be aware. Like in the United States, being a federated country is much complicated to regulate because you cannot regulate it nationally. But definitely, I think it's a very good example that we can try to spread through Latin America.
In fact, we're seeing big names, the likes of GVC, of Paddy Power, all jumping into the market now in Colombia, and we're hoping that this will spark something new in LatAm. However, David, what's the situation been like in Spain? Because what's characterized Colombia from what Ingrid and Juan has been saying is that the regulator is quite open, quite approachable, and has been quite flexible and dynamic. What's the situation been like in Spain and Europe in general over the past couple of months for Betsson?
Okay, hello everyone. Well, in Spain the circumstances are very different now. It started very well with the first regulation. No? Back in 2011, the government was doing a big effort to launch the regulation, a very good draft where all the rules were in the same board, but now suddenly during this COVID they decided to launch a new royal decree. As you should know, we were banned to do any advertisement, any marketing campaign, any digital activity, CRM bonuses, everything was stopped. So it hit to all the operators in a very bad way. And now we are waiting for a new draft of the new regulation. It's coming up apparently in October, so it's a bit restricted again with the times and with sponsorships and many things that are coming. So yeah, I mean, they are changing their rules suddenly, and well, we are a bit afraid in Spain, no? But what is for real is the Colombian government is working very hard. Even during the pandemic, they allow it to come up with the live dealer things, and well, we see, no, from Spain we are jealous of the government now.
And Betsson has recently jumped into Colombia with an acquisition of Colbet. I know it's public now, so we can discuss it a bit. Yeah. What's your view of the future of the Colombian market, and what do you see with this acquisition?
Well, Colombia is a very strategic market now for Betsson. We decided to acquire Colbet because we needed a brand. No, it's always better to have a partner. They have a very good name in Colombia. They have the knowledge of the market, so it's important to take their hand and to be there with them. Betsson has been operated in another Latin American markets for a long time, but as you know, every country is different than the others. And Colombia now with this COVID is boosting, no? The online gaming is going to grow. They are gonna reach probably half of the Spanish market in the next year, so a lot of investors and new companies will pop up in Colombia for sure in the next years.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said every country is different. And a lot of misconceptions we hear from operators and providers is that once they've localized for the Spanish market, then they can come into LatAm and run free. From an operational perspective, what's your view on localization for the Latin American markets?
First, you have to understand the player behavior, and every country has different players. Now Colombia is with the regulations since a few years ago, so for sure they have a mix of players. They have new age players that they didn't bet before, but the operators has to still working in the product because they can find users that they are looking for to get better products and to get better things, maybe random rewards, gamification. So it's time for the market to evolve. In exchange, in other countries, they don't need to do these big steps, and in Spain we are on it. No, Spain is a very mature market now, and the players are expecting many things.
It can be said that Latin America and Colombia are predominantly sports-based markets. Is this the same in Spain?
Well, more or less, but in Spain and other verticals are growing as well. But it's true that Latin America is a very sporty countries, and but in Spain, casino is advancing a lot. It's the vertical that grow the most in the previous 3 years. So yeah, but it's a consequence of the market growing. It's the mature market.
And we spoke of localization. What about player acquisition? I know that in Europe, and again, a lot of the operators we speak to, they have the misconception that they're going to employ a bunch of people in SEO and in marketing, you know, and run their blogs and acquire clients. I think the situation, from our perspective at least, is very different in LatAm in the sense that affiliate marketing is still very much in its infancy, and the regular channels of advertising are used more and are more prominent. What's your view on marketing and advertising from a comparative perspective between Europe and LatAm and Spain and Colombia?
Well, the focus of advertising in Colombia or Latin America is the bookies, no, the sports. In Europe is different. We are trying to localize the team, so we are trying to do the things regionally. Which is very important now to do all the marketing activities and trying to acquire players the best way possible. Always we say, no, from Betsson that we see the gaming as an entertainment, so it's an entertainment industry. We are creating this pattern of players that they don't have to bet every day. It's always with responsible gaming, and we are trying to create this concept. No? You can go to the cinema, spend 20 euros and spend the afternoon there or the evening, but at the same time maybe one day you prefer to stay at home and bet the 20 euros, so it's pretty healthy, and we are trying to acquire this kind of players from the different niches.
So we're talking about client acquisition and how there are different methods applied to different markets, and that's no different for LatAm. What about regulation? Ingrid, could you tell us a bit about the advertising regulations in Colombia and how advertising generally works?
Yeah, well, there are not that many restrictions as in Spain and in general in Europe. As long as the advertisement is not targeted to minors, it is still possible to make advertisement without a restriction on times. For example, in TV, sponsoring football teams is also one of the main activities performed by the operators. We have a league and we have a tournament. We have about 4 tournaments per year that are sponsored by one of the biggest operators in Colombia. What the industry is trying to do is to self-regulate before the regulator issues stricter measures regarding advertisement. But so far, there are no. There is, of course, a policy of responsible gaming and the possibility of self-exclusion of the players, but it's not. It is still possible to advertise in different spaces, unlike in Europe.
Thank you. And Juan, can you elaborate a bit on the advertising regulations in LatAm and how these differ from Spain and the rest of Europe?
Yeah, I would say that, and again, like clarifying, I'm a Colombian lawyer. I'm not based in Spain. Of course, I have a lot of background from our partners in Spain. But in fact, I will say that I can compare very closely how the advertising is in Spain, like in Colombia, not counting with the latest royal decree draft that will restrict or I will say forbid advertising in all ways. In Colombia and in general in Latin America, we can say across all borders that we have a style of self-regulated code on advertising. So I think in the maturity that we have in Latin America, this is a perfect moment for us as a region understand, and with the responsibility of the operators, to understand to be moderate with advertising, to do not create the problem, to be part of the solutions with a very balanced and moderate advertising, and I think that will create the environment of a regulator that won't go and target advertising as something bad, because I mean we are in a balanced situations between the strategics of positions. Of course, marketing has the operators with a balanced moment of advertising. There are not many restrictions, as Ingrid mentioned, here in Colombia, nor in most of the countries in Latin America. Of course, most of the target need of marketing will go for sports. But if we start to send the message to the operators on their process to be a balanced strategics of advertising and moderate the advertising, I think we can avoid to be in the situation that we are right now in Spain.
And David, from an operational perspective, do you have any comparative comments to make as regards Spain and Europe in general, as well as Colombia and LatAm, as far as client acquisition and advertising goes?
Well, it's the same, no? As my colleague said. In Spain now we are facing some new changes about advertisement. They are going to be very negative. They are going to limit the timeline in the television and in radio from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. for sure. But they want to apply new measures as well to the digital campaign. So we will see what happens, no? But it's going to have some impact in the numbers.
Yeah. Question for Ingrid. The reason that the Colombian market has developed so much over the past couple of months can largely be attributed to the COVID situation, and that's because most of the taxes collected, well, all the taxes collected from gaming go to the health authorities. So the government has been pushing for more and more products and to stimulate the market, obviously to collect funds to deal with the situation. Can you elaborate on that and how the market has developed over the past couple of months due to this situation?
Yes, well, beginning of April, the regulators started to look for measures to help the operators, not only online but land-based operators. So new verticals like live casino were adopted, but also the regulators decreased the gaming tax and even suspended some contracts for the operators that were only offering sportsbooks due to the cancellation of all the events. And lately in June, also a new vertical was authorized not only for instant win games, were authorized, and now Coljuegos is on the way. They just opened a public consultation process to issue the regulation of instant win games and finally give some dynamism also to the traditional lotteries that will be able to offer new products different to the traditional lotteries, but scratch cards, and hopefully also an opportunity to digitalize all their portfolio. So beginning from decreasing taxes, new verticals, but also approving protocols in order for the land-based casinos to start to reopen. The regulator has been very supportive with the operators. Yes.
Thank you. And a question for Juan. From your practice, especially over the past couple of months, and from advising clients in this market, what are your perspectives upon the attitude with regards to the regulator and the measures implemented by the regulator to combat COVID and to stimulate the market?
Well, as Ingrid mentioned, we definitely saw a regulator looking forward to dynamize the industry. And to take from your last question also, I would say this was like a time machine, the COVID-19. It was a time machine that just like put like a lot ethanol to the project of the regulator. And that created an evident interest of international operators that were like looking forward for Colombia, but with a certain speed of defining to go or not to step into the country because of the cost, because of the advertising, because of the investments, because of course many things, but definitely seeing that the numbers that are in general growing, even though the situation of the COVID are growing, that definitely speed up the process of foreign investments to come very fast into Colombia, and of course from the operators, from the regulator side, to speed up processes that we thought it would take probably years to maturate the idea, like mentioned by Ingrid, live casino. Even though they published a month ago draft amendment for the regulation to organize what we call co-organized operations, which is nothing different than a liquidity. And the discussions about international liquidity is already opened. You know, the idea to open that type of liquidity and make understand the regulator that this is the stigma of this concept must be understood and be investigated very, very, very hard from their side to understand that this is a very good tool to develop certain verticals in the industry that by today we will say in Colombia has been freezed, like exchange betting and poker, which recently has been operated by some operators here in Colombia, but with I will say with very, very conservative numbers. And international liquidity discussions, of course, will come with a lot of contradictories, of course, but also with understanding deeply this structure. The regulator will understand that it's a very good tool to develop also industry. And we don't need to wait until European countries develop for us to go, because I continuously heard arguments that our industry in Colombia it's a very early stage and we should get them maturate. That's why we should not discuss this type of stuff. And I'm completely against those type of arguments. I mean, we don't need to understand what's going on in Europe. We already took the step forward in Latin America, so we will lead that part. I mean, and discussions like live casino was something that was very against of, I will say 1 year, it was something like not even thinkable to happen like that, and it happened in 3 months. And the study's result says that wasn't against all their verticals, all their industries in the gambling in Colombia. So this time machine, we should take advantage and help the regulator to speed up a lot of process that would definitely benefit local operators, of course, and newcomers from abroad.
You mentioned this COVID time machine. I think it's also been affecting the consumer as well, not just the regulator. As we read in Forbes a couple of weeks ago that a large chunk of the population that was underbanked has now joined the financial system because people aren't going out, so they need alternative methods of payment. And payments in the region have always been an issue. So Ingrid, can you elaborate on how the financial aspect has also changed because of the current pandemic?
Yeah, only this year, 1 million new users joined the financial system. And also a very important alliance was made, not only for Colombia, but for all Latin America. Rappi, which is a platform that works for deliveries, that started for just food deliveries, but now it has diversified its portfolio. They offer an e-wallet, which is also a new product that is starting to operate here in Colombia. No, there are not many users of e-wallets, but through Rappi, it was possible to reach a lot of the population. And now Rappi made an alliance with the online operators, and it is possible for users of Rappi to go into its platform and access to all the online operators. So I would say the access to wallets and the access to the financial system has, as Juan has said, has really speed up due to COVID. And this is also going to be a great advantage for the online operators.
David, a question for you. Payments are always known to be a headache in LatAm because of the underbanked society. And in general, payments are done at retail, even if the operator is online. What's Betsson's experience in general with payments in Latin America? And how have you found navigating the market, as well as in Colombia?
Well, this is the million-dollar question, the payments in Latin America. No, we are working close to the local banks. There are new payments gateways. There are new structures. So we are trying to take advantage as everybody else in the market. So this is a big discussion that it could take 4 hours. But I think the markets are evolving, and they will get better with the payment solutions for sure.
Generally, we say that the 3 pillars to enter LatAm are localization of product, marketing spend, and setting up of payment gateways. What would you say as an operator are the foundational elements to enter Latin American markets?
Those are the 3 elements basically, and as well understand the market pretty well, and don't think that Colombia is the same as Peru or is the same as Mexico. Every country has its rules, and you have to understand the rules before getting into the market if you don't want to put the money in the rabbits. So that's the knowledge we have.
Understood. I'm just being told we have 2 minutes left, so I'll just wind down. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time. I'm just wondering if Juan or Ingrid or yourself, David, you have anything to add. If not, we'll say thanks very much to SiGMA, and we hope everyone enjoys the rest of the conference.